Hey everybody, it is Jennifer, and as promised, I have a Q&A for you guys today about my recent move to the UK. I'm filming this from my bed in my bedroom because it is the only furniture that I have, unfortunately, at the moment. So I just thought I'd get all comfy cozy. Got Gigi here, ready to do some questions and answers, and we are going to go ahead and fill you guys in. So stay tuned and we'll get started. All right, so this brings me to, well, you know what? I'll hold on to that question here in a second. So I basically posted on Facebook and Instagram and here on YouTube. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're interested in me doing another one of these, you have more questions, please put them in the comments down below. But I've got these kind of in an order. But yeah, I'm just going to go through and share the questions that I received and let you know the answers. All right, so the first question is, how did your transfer from the US to the UK go? So thank you for this question. In fact, thank you for everyone that asked the question. So the transfer, I don't know if this person is referring to employment, because my husband's job did transfer, or if this person is referring just to like the actual transferring of life, but I'll kind of answer both. So my husband works for a multinational company. So his transfer was fairly straightforward because it is a multinational company with a UK branch or base. Obviously, I didn't get to transfer my job. I wish, but yeah. So that's how his job transfer went. As far as how the overall transfer of life went, it's been hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a huge, crazy, complicated. Moving to another country has got to be one of the hardest things that I have ever done in my life. And it has completely given me a new appreciation, insight into what a difficult task it really is to do. Just the amount of complications and things that you have to think about and prepare and do, the amount of spreadsheets that my husband and I have had to create and keep up with. It's been quite a lot. And we started planning, for this transfer, at the end of last year, fairly early in the year, and it took, like 5 or 6 months to fully get to the point where we were ready to start thinking about purchasing a ticket to move over. That includes, applying for my visa and just going through that whole process and packing our stuff, having our stuff shipped, and selling a house, buying a house, everything. It's been very close to about a solid year of preparation and actual doing. So it's been a lot. It's definitely been very complicated. All right, the next question is, can you share a bit more about the process of moving your pets over? How did they do and how are they doing now? Okay, so first of all, Paw Express, I want to go ahead and recommend them in a big way. So Misty is a pet coordinator with Paw Express, and she helps coordinate your health certificates that are required for your animals between the various countries that you travel through. Now, the reason I say the various countries is because the UK does not allow you to fly with a pet in cabin directly to the UK. You can only come via land or sea, but you can fly to countries in Europe with your pet directly in the cabin. And she coordinates those certificates that are needed to do that. So that is what we did. I think I did mention this in a previous video. We flew to Amsterdam and took a ferry over. We did it twice, once with our cats and once with our dogs. And it's expensive. And it's a lot, and it's scary and complicated and all the things, but Misty really does make that so much easier, so I highly recommend her. We also had a really, really good vet who was wonderful to work with and very supportive, and so it's an expensive process, I'm not going to lie. Immigration in general is very expensive. It was very expensive when my husband moved from the UK to the US. Insanely expensive. It took our life savings at that point. And it is very expensive for me to move to the US to the UK. Again, we had a lot of savings, and it was expensive. It just was. There's no way to sugarcoat that. So it was expensive. But getting our pets over was certainly a very expensive part of it. But there's no way I wouldn't bring you. That just wouldn't happen. She's so cute. Her, just like the rest of us. Our ship hasn't come in with our stuff in it yet. So she's also just got a couple of warm sweaters, just like me. And so hoping our stuff comes in soon because the weather is definitely starting to change now. All right, so the next question that I received was, can you own property as a dual citizen or someone with a visa, or do you have to change your citizenship to own property/land? So first of all, I am not a dual citizen. I am only a U.S. citizen. My husband is a dual UK-U.S. citizen. I have a visa. So, by the way, we have painters in the house today, so that is, you hear some noise in the background. They're doing some work upstairs. Can you own property as someone with a visa? Yes. And yes to dual citizen, and yes to a visa. You can definitely own property. It says, do you have to change your citizenship to own property or land? And the answer is no. And from my understanding, it is the same way in the US. Even if you never stepped foot in the US or the UK, you can technically still purchase property. That's my understanding. I don't think there are any laws or restrictions about purchasing property, which seems a little bit bizarre because, I guess depending on what you do with it, depending on how you're purchasing it, you could purchase as an Airbnb or a rental or something like that. And I'm sure a lot of people do stuff like that as part of a business. But as far as like a guest house or your summer guest house or whatever, you absolutely, as far again as I understand, so, double check me. I'm just giving what I know, or what I think I know, but you can purchase a house. Now, whether or not you're legally entitled to live in that house or visit that house or whatever, that's a different situation. They will definitely take your money. And I think that is the same in the US as well. All right, next question. Did you move into your house yet? Okay, yes, I did. As I said earlier, I am in my new bedroom right now. As you can see, there's a whole lot of nothing going on behind me. And there are painters upstairs. So we did move into our house. As I'm filming this, we moved in yesterday. We started moving stuff in and doing some projects over the course of the week. So it wasn't like a huge, big climatic thing when we moved in. The final stage and the final step was to get our dogs over here. And my husband is actually on the way back from Manchester right now with our cats, so then our cats will be back home as well. But we did move in. The whole process took about 7 weeks, I think, which is record breaking, I hear. But again, we were chain free. The house was chain free. And I was just on it. I had an attorney ready to go. I already had a mortgage offer in place. So I really was trying to do everything I could. I really love our house a lot so far. Is it my dream house of life? I mean, probably not. Like, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but it was a house that I very much loved and was in a great location. And like I said, it was chain free and it was empty, so it was ready to move into now. And in hindsight, I think this was our perfect house. So I really am happy, very happy. All right, do you notice any major difference from US to UK living? Yes, so much. I have been here every year for 10 years to visit, at least once a year with my husband. I also did a brief study abroad over a summer semester here in 2006, I believe. This is officially the longest that I've been here. There's so many differences. It is, I think that people think because we speak English in the US and they speak English in the UK. I'm speaking English in the UK also. Because that is the primary language, I think people expect, again, I'm so sorry about the noise, but I think people expect there to be just a lot of similarity, especially because American film and American television is a huge part of British life and British culture, as is the opposite true as well. It's like Harry Potter, for example. Y'all were raised with Harry Potter and have seen Harry Potter. But that's pretty much where a lot of the similarities end, I think. Living here for this amount of time, I think living here for as long as I've been here already, they're just completely different countries. They're just completely different countries. I think the UK is far more similar to someplace like France or Spain or something, to European countries, than it is to the US. I do not think there is a lot of similarity at all. It's very different. The way of life is very different. The cultures are very different. The values are very different. How success is determined is very different. What's important in life is very different. What makes people happy is very different. How people interact with one another is very different. I mean, it's just an entirely, completely different culture, country, and experience. So yeah, I notice incredible major differences between US and UK living. It's incredibly different. All right, the next question is, how are holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas different in England? So I guess I'll address the first part of this first, because it's something that I don't think a lot of Americans really think about very often, or maybe they haven't thought about to this detail. But there is no Thanksgiving in the UK, because Thanksgiving is, a specific US holiday, though I know Canada has a Thanksgiving as well, but it's a specific US holiday in the way that we're referencing it, that deals with being thankful for, landing in America and having assistance and help from the Native Americans, etc., and all of that stuff. But so that doesn't really exist here. And I think in the US, it's kind of changed so much over the course of my lifetime. When I was a kid, Thanksgiving was a really big deal. People still dressed up like pilgrims at school and stuff like that. We made little buckles and little hats at school. Now I think Thanksgiving is football and eating. And I think that's kind of the culture that it's taken on. But I don't think there's anything that's equivalent here. Christmas is very similar. I would say there's not such a huge Santa Claus / Father Christmas culture. That's not to say that, that's not important to a lot of people, but I don't see a lot of Santas when I go out at Christmas. I don't see a lot of, get your picture made with Santa, that kind of thing. So I think that is a little bit different. But Christmas is lovely in the UK. It's absolutely lovely. It's cold and it's dark, which makes the fireplaces inside the pubs and stuff just so cozy and nice. And Christmas dinner is really good, and I've even really fallen in love with the Christmas pudding and the Christmas cake and stuff like that. So it is similar, very similar. It still has the heart of Christmas in both places, but there are some key differences as well. This next question was presented by my sister, I'm pretty sure, and it said, do you miss your sister? And the answer is yes, I do miss my sister very much. And I hope that my sister will come and visit me soon, because that would make me really happy. All right, the next question is, how is education different from the US to England? Do they recognize your degree credits, or do you have to retake classes to be certified as a professor like you were in the US? Okay, so kind of multiple parts here. Education is very different in the US and the UK, very, very different. I think up until age 12-ish is probably very similar. And then what happens is 12, 13, 14, I guess. In America, you go to high school. Whereas secondary school here may be a high school, middle school combo. And they graduate high school when they're 16. And then they go to sixth form if they want to do that, or do their A-levels or whatever. I don't know all the details, to be honest. I'm still kind of learning. And then they go to university. In the US, you go to high school until you're 18, and then you graduate and go straight to community college or university. So it is different. A bachelor's degree here, from what I understand, mostly is 3 years. It's 4 years in the US. A PhD program here is strictly working on your dissertation, whereas in the US, you have required coursework. There are a lot of differences. So the next part of the question, do they recognize your degree credits, or do you have to retake classes to be certified as a professor like you were in the US? So first of all, the word professor also means something different here. From what I understand, it's like a person over a department. So what we would call a department head, or maybe even, or a department chair or a dean. Whereas in the US, there are professors of various levels, and you promote up through them. So there's instructor, and then you promote to assistant professor, and then associate professor, and then full professor if you have your doctorate in that subject. So it is obviously very different. I was an assistant professor when I left my position. So I wasn't certified as anything. I just am a subject matter expert in my field, and so that proves as my certification. Whereas I think there are credentials here in the UK that do not exist in the US for higher education qualified individuals. I don't plan to teach here. I hope to do something a bit more administrative in higher education. So hopefully I'm not going to have to be re-credentialed in any way. Regarding my degrees, so when Alex moved to the US, he went through an education equivalency, and that is basically where a company, it's a private company in the US, they look at your credentials, they look at your syllabi, if you've got one, the grades you made, all of that, and they award you a US degree equivalent, basically. I went through the same process coming to the UK, and it's government rather than private. I think the organization that does this is called ENIC, and they evaluated my degrees and awarded me an equivalent. And I'm happy to say that I got awarded my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate. So all 3 of my degrees were awarded equivalent status here. That is not the case for everyone. It depends on the country you come from, the colleges you came from, the universities you went to, the programs you were in. Everything is different. And I see a lot of stuff online in expat groups and things about psychologists, therapists, nurses. All of those things have very specific credentials that are very different. So I'm fortunate in that way, but other people do have to take classes and do have to take sometimes complete programs or tests, etc., to get requalified here. Which is a good segue to the next question. How has job hunting been? Job hunting is so hard here. So hard. For every job application, instead of writing a narrative cover letter introducing yourself, who you are, talking about your experience, your credentials, etc., they have listed in their job description essential requirements for that position. You are expected to go through each one of those essential requirements and basically outline how you meet those requirements in very bullet form, 2-page, this is how I meet this. And then they look, the HR person, the recruiter looks to see if you have those qualifications, if you meet those essential things, and then you might get an interview. It is so hard and it takes so long. And for each of those things, you know, I've been told to use the STAR method, which is like the situation, action, task, result, or whatever. Situation, task, action, result. It takes hours to get in a job application. And so this is a perfect example. I've applied for so many jobs at this point. I mean, like 80, it's got to be close to 80. But like I got a rejection letter yesterday and the email literally said, unfortunately, we've just decided not to fill this role. And I probably spent, honestly, like 3 to 4 hours on that application. So that's very discouraging. It's very disheartening. So job hunting has not been going great so far. I'm still very optimistic and positive that it just hasn't been my fit yet. But now that I'm in my house, my stuff is supposed to arrive in the UK. I should have it in the next few weeks. So I'm in a much better place to get a job now than I was, you know, a couple months ago anyway. So hopefully things will start to turn around soon. And finally, the last question is, have you experienced any culture shock? I thought about this question a lot when I got it. And I'm like, have I experienced any culture shock? I don't think that I have experienced any culture shock yet, but I can see from various things that I've read online and seen online, there is definitely a possibility that I will. I think it has less to do with culture being vastly different and more to do with the fact that I am living in a much different kind of place than I was in the US. I lived in a fairly rural area in the US, and though I am living in a what they call fairly, that many people would call this rural where I am, it wouldn't be to me. Like, it is large enough that I would not necessarily consider this fairly rural, which is what I wanted because I wanted the ability to walk places and get on public transportation, etc. But that's very different from anything that I've ever known in life. So I feel like if when I do get culture shock, it will be more a product result of just living in such a vastly different kind of location rather than a vastly different country, if that makes sense. These were all great questions, and I hope that I have answered them to your satisfaction. I would love to do another one of these. So like I said, if you have questions or there's still things that you would love to know, please put them in the comments down below. And I vowed to keep this under 20 minutes, so hopefully we're going to make that. But I hope everybody is doing great, and me and Gigi will see you guys in my next video. Bye!